Well, hey everyone, and welcome to episode number 67 of the Other Six Podcast. My name is Chad Boak, and I am your host. Joining me once again in the studio, my co-host, our worship pastor, the man who put gingerbread on his bed and called it a cookie sheet. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt Collins.
I thought you said I was going to fall out of my chair with
Dude,
that one.
That one, I worked on it for a little bit. It needs more workshopping.
Okay,
Maybe next
right,
week. Yeah,
all right.
we're not there yet.
Okay.
Also joining us in the studio today, our lead pastor, Adam
do
Bishop.
better, right?
Adam, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm just good, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
I don't like eating cookies in bed, though. Crumbs
Well,
everywhere.
crumbs get everywhere.
Yeah.
Ants, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, you don't want that.
No. I
Yeah.
don't think you should eat any kind of food on a bed. That's just a bad idea. No.
Right. No, I agree with
Food,
that.
Stay in the kitchen. Maybe in the living room.
I was going to say on a couch. I mean, like watching some
living
football
room,
or something.
man,
Like,
I mean, if it's me and Morgan, but the boys?
Right.
Are you
Oh,
kidding
well, yeah.
me? Oh, my gosh.
We're not assuming children
Yeah.
in this scenario.
All right,
Yeah.
okay. All right, good. It's good to know. Just wanted to clarify a few
Very
things.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The tips from the other six podcasts about where you should eat. So, how was everyone's weekend, Adam? How was your weekend?
It was nice. It was busy. It was
Yeah.
fun. We had a good time. I'll start at Thursday night. We were up here Thursday night at the church.
We were.
I don't even know, what did we call that?
So
you and Morgan planned this.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was.
At some point, it was called like the Next Generation Childcare Extravaganza Palooza or something like that.
That's
but
too
basically,
long.
Who cares what it was called?
Right.
So
What did you
we
do?
So-
gave our volunteers a night out.
that serve in kids and student ministry.
Yeah.
A
That's
night
cool.
out.
Yeah,
so y'all were up here
we
doing
were
that?
up here with the kids.
Yeah,
and,
hanging out,
some
having a
other
good time.
folks with the kids. I read the Christmas story.
Yep, you did a good
until they
job.
all started rebelling. I'll tell you what, children's ministry is not easy.
Start rebelling.
Well, I felt bad because this kid, I was throwing out like questions and like I was going to give away a prize, and this kid was like super close to the right answer. So I whispered the right answer in his ear so he could, with the microphone, give the right answer. Well, they all start yelling, "Cheater!" Cheater! I thought someone was going to yell, "Barabbas!" I was like, "This is." They're like coming after me. So I was like, "Man, Morgan. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
I think a lot of her for many reasons, but leading kids ministry not easy.
The rest of the night went fantastic.
Other than them yelling at me during the
After
Christmas
they ran
story.
Adam off.
Yeah, they made ornaments. They decorated cookies. They played games. It was a good time.
Yeah, we had food. We had pizza. It was a great night.
Yeah.
So that kind of started the weekend, and then Sam had a robotics tournament on Saturday. That was a lot of fun.
Okay, how'd it go?
It went good. Pike Road hosted it, so there teams from all over the state came in, and I actually learned quite a bit because Morgan had signed us up to help run something at it. I'm like, you did what? So like I had to learn on the fly. No, it was really great. Great to see those kids using amazing gifts, and then. Jacob had a basketball game on Sunday, and Morgan's parents, and we won. We gotta make sure we get that out there.
There you go.
Morgan's parents were in town. I mean, it was a really busy weekend, but it was a really fun weekend. We had a great time.
Yeah.
What about you, Matthew?
I did not do as much as
Yeah.
you. I went to the Living Christmas Tree.
Oh, how was
cool.
that?
It was awesome.
Yeah, that thing's like super tall.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's like 4 stories.
We're talking about First Baptist,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so tell us about that.
So
I saw that on
It's a
Facebook.
big production. So Nick, my buddy down there, he was working. I think he did 13 hours, 2 days, 13 hours.
Oh, wow.
Just to set it up, and he's like mapping everything out. But they had like an orchestra, the choir, and then they had like people in the trees. I guess they're part of the choir too. They have a massive choir.
That's really cool. How do they determine who gets to be the star?
I was
Isn't
about
that
to
the
say
one?
the guy
isn't that
at
the
the
one you
top
want?
was getting after it, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a showmanship kind of thing.
Yeah.
You gotta-
I don't know if I would want to be at the top though, because it's like there's not a lot of space.
It's really
scared of
high up
heights.
there.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I
it's
couldn't
4
do that.
stories up, and
No.
you're like this.
No.
Oh my goodness.
So that's cool. I'm glad you went. So First Baptist Montgomery, if you're new to Vaughn Forest, if you're new to the podcast, they planted Vaughn Forest.
That's right.
In
Yeah,
1994.
They did.
Great church. Mark Bethia, the pastor there, is fantastic. A friend. He and I grab lunch quite frequently to pray for one another, encourage one another.
Yeah.
Big fan of First Baptist, and I saw that on Facebook today. I didn't know you had went.
I
So
went,
that's really cool. And they've been
Nick
doing
got me
that
in.
for a long time. You grew up
I
here.
think it's
40
a super long tradition.
It's
Yeah.
41 years.
Yeah, older than I am.
Oh
yeah.
man, that's
41
so
years.
great. That's cool. Well, we're so grateful for First
41 or
Baptist.
42,
Everything they do
Yeah.
for
Great
the river
folks.
region. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's really cool.
cool.
I'm glad you got to do that, man.
It was really fun.
Yeah, so we actually obviously Thursday night we were up here.
What did you do, Chad? We didn't ask you.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
now you
yeah.
just-
Thanks, man. So Thursday night we were up here at the childcare or the hanging out
Whatever,
night.
yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
it is. Next
Fun-
generation
fun
fun
night.
The fun night
That's
where
right.
I don't got ran off by kids.
That's right. And then Saturday was actually really cool. So my brother-in-law is actually deployed to Korea, and they're a family here in this church, but he was back in the States for a little bit of training. And so my sister, so his wife, who's actually my sister-in-law, I call him my brother-in-law. I don't think technically he's married to my sister-in-law.
Okay.
She got to go see him for a little bit.
I think that makes him your brother-in-law.
Does it?
Yeah,
I don't know how
it does.
works. All right,
It
well,
does.
there we
Yes,
go.
Yes.
And so we got to watch their three kids.
Carry the two.
Yeah,
all
I don't know
right,
how
we're
it works. So we got to watch their three kids
family.
while she went out there, and so really it was fun to get to hang out with them. And we drove around looking at Christmas lights and had some
great.
Christmas cookies and stuff. But I want us to talk about what happened on Sunday. It was a lot of cool stuff that happened this week, and so maybe we should back up before we get to Sunday.
Okay.
Let's talk about last Monday and Tuesday night.
Monday, Tuesday night.
A lot happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Matt, you're the music expert.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened on
We
Monday,
had
Tuesday night.
Pike Road Band up here, man. They had the middle school band Monday night, and Tuesday night they had the high school and the jazz band. They killed it, man.
It was so
Good.
good.
It was so good.
Like, I remember when I was in band in high school, it was like everyone came. It was like, yeah. Like,
good
it was okay.
job.
But these
They
guys
killed it, man.
legit, man. It was
Very
so
good.
good.
Super talented.
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, it was great to see them. And then Wednesday night we had our student ministry Christmas party. Had
That
probably
looked a lot of fun.
about 80 or 85 kids up here. So we had an ugly sweater competition. And one of my favorite moments of the night is, we lined them all up and they were walking across the stage. And I was like, so is it ugly? And everyone, yeah, it's ugly. Having a great time.
Yeah, it's ugly.
But we had a nacho bar. We had all kinds of fun Christmas cookies and ice cream.
So that's why all my band members were late. They were down there getting.
That's right.
exactly
all,
right.
all hyped up on sugar from the student
we
ministry
got
thing.
done pretty quick that night.
But no, there was a bunch of them there, and we had the little spinny thing that you have to, the inflatable, you jump over it or under it, and really it was a blast. It was great to see our students having a good time with that. And then let's talk about Sunday, our Sunday morning Christmas party with everybody.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. I mean, on campus yesterday was just great. Obviously, we had the animals outside. That was cool. But then inside, man, the Velvet Trio.
The Velvet
Yeah, so we got to
Trio,
talk
man.
about that.
So
Yeah.
these are 3 high school students at Pike Road. They
Right.
play in the band, and they were playing in
Yeah.
the lobby last Tuesday night,
Yeah,
maybe?
Tuesday night, yeah.
And so playing Christmas songs, and we were like, I wonder if we could get them here Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And so they agreed to come,
Yeah.
and they set up, and man, they are super talented.
Yeah.
And
They were so good.
It really kind of helped with the whole Christmas vibe. So that was awesome. We had the photo booths. We had the some hot chocolate at the
we did.
at the cafe. The Christmas train, obviously. It was fun, man.
Yeah.
There were people everywhere. It was so great.
It has. We were talking earlier. It had such a cool vibe yesterday, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to measure vibe, but there were tons of folks here having a blast.
Our vibe meter
Our
was
vibe
very
meter
high.
is very high that day for Christmas.
So it
Did the
was,
camel behave?
The camel behaved. What was his name? I'm trying to
don't
remember.
know.
It was like Timothy or something
Timothy?
like that. I can't-
Timothy the camel?
The camel, yeah.
That's a terrible name for a camel.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
Carl, I could see that. Carl the camel.
Timothy.
Travis. No, it was Travis. Travis the
That's
camel.
still
what
not
it
any
was.
better.
Yeah. So anyway,
And there were no monkeys. You told me there were going to be monkeys.
so
I'm
I
still caught up on Travis. That's
Travis the
funny.
camel, yeah.
What's that name of that movie with the animals? And the rabbit's name is Travis. What's the
What?
name of that movie? Yeah, all these animals are singing and all this different stuff. It's got the sloth. He's really slow. He works at the
Sid
DMV.
the Sloth?
Zootopia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Zootopia.
Zootopia.
There's an
Yeah.
animal named Travis in that movie.
No, I was
and
thinking
it's a
Sid the
rabbit.
Sloth.
Yeah, and the sloth all worked out at the DMV.
Yeah, that's a great movie. That's so great.
That is a good one.
Sorry, I digress. Let's
yeah.
come back to the Christmas party. There were no monkeys.
There were no
which
monkeys.
on the whole, is
That's
probably for the better.
Yeah.
It's
I
probably
was
for the better.
expecting
Right.
them to make a run for it and be in the
Yeah,
service.
I don't
Yeah.
think we need monkeys on the camera.
no, but
No,
he
probably
told me
not.
they were going to be.
Well, I thought they were going to be. He ended up not bringing
I
them.
kind of told everybody last week
Yeah.
on the podcast.
Yeah.
there
There
were
might
gonna
have
be
been.
monkeys. So anyway, no monkeys, but that's okay.
No, it was a good time. Got to see some really cool animals up close, and again, it was a fun time, man.
Yeah.
Everyone seemed to have
On all the photos, I've seen them up on Facebook.
Yep, you can
got
get them
your
on
photo
Facebook.
made yesterday.
And there's high-res images of them at vaughnforest.com/Christmas.
Wow,
So you can head there.
high-res.
Yeah, and download those and use them for like a card. If you've been, late in getting your Christmas cards out or anything
Yeah.
like that, you're more than welcome to do so.
DNI.
Do they still do the thing where they used to have these kiosks at the mall where you could take a picture and they'd put it on like a mug or like a t-shirt
yeah.
or like a hat?
Yeah, I'm
do
sure
they
you can just
still
get
do this?
online, though.
I mean, I haven't been in a mall in years.
I was
I don't
about to
even
say.
know, but we did that for school teachers when I was in high school.
Okay.
Me and my buddies.
That's a great idea.
We would get our picture made, and then we would get it on a mug, and we'd give it to them for Christmas. And they were like, what am I supposed to do
mug
with this?
on a mug.
I'm like, you put that on your desk, and you stare at us every day, and you thank the good Lord that you got to be our teacher.
Yeah.
And Morgan's like, you really did that kind of stuff? I'm like, oh, yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
We did that every year, but I don't know if they do that anymore.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to figure that out. Let's get on that.
So all I'm hearing is I know what you and I are getting Adam for Christmas this year. That's all I'm hearing.
That would be the greatest thing
Our
ever.
mug with our faces on it.
I would walk in. I would put on this podcast.
These are my best friends.
Every time. I would love that. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes.
That'd be amazing. And then, so the day didn't end, however, with the Christmas party. We had Kid Faith right after that. Had a bunch of kids at Kid Faith.
Very
Kind of
cool.
got to
That's
explain
awesome.
the gospel and baptism. So looking forward to that. And then we had our annual general meeting yesterday evening and really got to celebrate a lot. And really, in your message yesterday, we celebrated quite a bit. So I
Yeah.
kind of want to start there today. We had a really cool video that Sound Guy Jonathan, production guy Jonathan put together. And I want to talk a little bit about that video because it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan and Matt, I'll give Matt some
That's-
credit there as well. They did such a great job piecing that together. But I'm really grateful we had lots of volunteers who helped capture that footage throughout the years.
Absolutely.
Throughout the year. So taking pictures and capturing videos. And, we started talking about this a few months ago, but it's like, how can you try as best as possible to capture all the great things that we've seen God do this year? And you're not going to ever be able to capture all of it, but in about a 6 or 7 minute video, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really neat to see.
And when Matt and Jonathan showed me that for the first time, I said to them, if I'd never heard anything about Vaughn Forest Church, I would say, I want to be a part of that church.
Yeah.
I mean, just seeing everything that's happening. And so one of the things I shared at our members meeting yesterday afternoon is, when you show a video like that, I mean, yes, we give God the glory, we give God the praise, but biblically, I kind of like to use the story of Ruth a lot because I think that applies to this as well. So Ruth would say, yeah, God did awesome things while I was working in a field. She wasn't sitting on the couch.
Right,
I hope God comes through. No, she went to work. So when we celebrate what God has done, here's the flip side of the coin. We're also celebrating many of the people who call Vaughn Forest home, who make all of this happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is a partnership. God does use us. I mean, I would think he would have come up with a better plan than using us.
Right.
Just good old-fashioned folks, empowered by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
He uses us. And so those of you who are listening, when you serve and when you give, and man, it makes a huge difference. And when we watch that on a video, you get to really see how all of that works together, and how it all comes together, and it comes together with a church being a church, flawed as we may be, getting to celebrate what we've seen God do this year. So, man, I thought, again, Matt, Jonathan, thank you guys so much for the work y'all put into that.
Yeah.
And I think we already have that out on our website and on social media. So if you weren't in the services, if you haven't seen that yet, it should be pretty easy to track down now. Just go to vaughnforest.com. I think it's right there on the homepage.
It is. Yeah.
Really, really fun to celebrate all that God's done.
And one of the things I love the most about it as I was watching it is how little those of us that call ourselves pastors and staff were in that video.
Yeah.
We're in it to be sure, and we're at these events and service opportunities, but like you say, it's the people of Vaughn Forest, it's the volunteers that are out there doing the work. And man, it just made me so happy to see all these different things, because when you start stacking back to back to back to back all these different ways that we've been able to have fun together, but also been able to serve our community, it just blows my mind. I thought it was great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we did celebrate a lot, but we also talked about the gift of hope for future generations. So what made you want to talk about that during the Christmas season?
Yeah, so I guess a lot of it is just thinking about Old Testament. So, in the Old Testament, every generation is kind of passing down to the next generation. Here's what God has done. So, if you want to start with Abraham, if you want to start with Moses, start with Jacob, you can really pick a character, tell of his faithfulness. Here's what God has done. Here's what we are anticipating God will do. So depending on the generation that you happen to be alive at the time, you might have a little more clarity about what we believe God will do concerning prophecies with the Messiah to come. But that message was passed down from one generation to the next. And so part of being a part of God's family, God's people, if you will, is you're constantly passing down what anyone in that time period would have seen of a message of hope, a message of our God, a message of the goodness of God, a message of the faithfulness of God. And so now here we are 2,000 years into church history, and in many ways, we still have that same mandate, if you will.
Yeah.
Like we've got this next generation coming behind us, that the message of hope initiated at Christmas. God comes to earth through his son, Jesus Christ, born of the Virgin, Jesus is faithful to the cross, faithful to the resurrection, ascending into heaven, the promise that he will return. So the gift of hope ultimately is the gospel, the good news of the gospel message. So how are we taking that, and how are we passing that message on to the next generation? And then how are we setting up even now the next generation to pass it on to their generation after them? Because that's what the passage we read from Psalm says. It's not just to their children, it's so then they can do it to their children, and they can pass it on to their children. Yeah. So it's really a fabric of just who we are as God's people, that we always have to do that. And so I just thought in the Christmas season, since we're obviously talking about the gift of hope and we're talking about Jesus coming, like, why don't we just connect those dots? Just kind of give a big reminder. It's so much of who we are as a church. It drives so much of who we are as a church, focusing on the next generation. So I just thought it'd be a great time to kind of circle back around to that and show our entire church family we didn't just come up with this. It's not like we just sat in a meeting and went, hey, let's make the next generation a focus. Any church that's not making the next generation a focus, I'm not sure what Bible you're reading, okay? So this is part of our story. So, we're going to talk about this a lot because we actually think it's what we've been called to.
That's really good. So, with this mandate to proclaim the gospel to the next generation, one of the things you said in your message was that we are at a pivotal crossroad about how we're going to continue to do that. And I would make the argument, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, that the generational divides, the gaps, the differences are more stark now, I think, than they've ever been in history. So how do we do that? How can we bridge the gap with the generations coming after us when they're just so much different than we are? How do we do that?
We've got to get super clear about what it means to be a Christ follower. We got to start there. Okay. So we can't assume that anybody even knows what that means. Like, what does it mean to be born again? What does it mean to be a follower of Jesus? What does it mean to have experienced salvation? Which is why we talk about that a lot as a church family. So we've got to get very clear with that. And here's what I mean by that. When I was growing up in the early 80s, this was not intentional, okay? So I want to be very clear. I grew up in a great church with a capital G, great church that focused on children, focused on teenagers, and I benefited from that, okay? But just the culture of, I would say, evangelical Christianity at that time in the South, I grew up in, suburban Atlanta, it wasn't as clear to me what being a follower of Jesus really meant. It felt like there were several layers to that, as far as how you had to look, or what you needed to now listen to, or the movies you could or could not watch, or how much you could or could not have to do with the world, culture, and society, or who you're supposed to hang out with as opposed to who you're not supposed to hang out with. It seemed, or the music you should listen to and the music you should not listen to. It just felt very multifaceted. And just the clarity and the simplicity of being born again was sometimes muddied a little bit by what I would now call cultural Christianity.
Interesting.
So a lot of the next generation, they really don't want to have anything to do with cultural Christianity. Millennials certainly don't want to have anything to do with cultural Christianity.
Right.
So if you can present the gospel and you can present Jesus without all of the trimmings, without all of the other, things, there is definitely an openness to Jesus and to the gospel message. But a lot of those things that we kind of look at now as cultural Christianity, those who are in older generations, they may not necessarily see that as cultural Christianity as much as they may just see that as Christianity.
Interesting.
So that's why there are differences and different values and disagreements, because even what it means to be a Christ follower, and here's the key, the implications of being a Christ follower as it pertains to other areas of our life, those different generations are going to look at that very differently when it comes to how do we engage in society, how do we engage in the political process, how do we engage in other arenas, if you will. And so there's different answers to that. And then here's what I would say. I don't think it's a right or a wrong. I don't necessarily think that one generation is looking at that correctly and the others aren't. I actually think that we can learn from one another and have our own perspectives, kind of sharpened, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I'm not trying to say that one generation is seeing this correctly and the other isn't. But what I am saying is, just by the very nature of this discussion, wouldn't it be easy to forget about focusing on the next generation? And that's sometimes what I see, is while we're trying to all figure this out, we've got this other generation coming behind us that we aren't really giving the attention to like we should be.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the different generations. you said that there were 4 in our church, right?
Yeah, adults. Well, 5 if you count the young folks. But,
but you had
4 different generations of adults.
We brought the quadrants back up.
The 5th generation.
Yeah, let's talk through
the
that
next generation of the 4 different quadrants. Yeah. So when we talk about generations, we're really talking about values.
Right.
We're talking about values. So there is the age component, and we are being. I'm summarizing. So obviously you can find somebody in a generation who goes, well, I don't have that value at all. That's fine, okay? Right. I'm speaking more from a societal perspective. And so the builder generation, kind of the older end of that spectrum, fought in World War II. I mentioned my grandparents who, both my grandfathers fought in World War II are now with Jesus. The younger end of that spectrum, kind of born right about World War II, dedication, devotion, loyalty, kind of the fabric of our nation, built kind of this Judeo-Christian value system, this Judeo-Christian work ethic, if you will. Here, I didn't say this in the message, but here's what's very challenging, okay? Here's what's very challenging, is that while those values were being built, that we kind of look back now and go, man, those are great values.
Right.
Very, family-centric and dedication and loyalty. While those values were being built, there also was at the height of segregation. It was also when schools were being segregated. And when, if your skin was black, you weren't getting to experience those values. And so, future generations look back on that time period and we go, why was that such a great time period? Because to me, that doesn't seem like that would have been a great time period at all. It seems like there were a lot of things that were happening that were completely counter to God's word.
Right.
And this is where the phrase came about, the most segregated hour in America is 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. So you have this just convergence of what seemed to be very competing values happening in this time period in our country. And so what on the surface could seem to be serene and peaceful, and man, that's just when things were so great in America. Man, not really. Not really. So every generation has had its struggles and had its trials, and hindsight's always 20/20. But now in this season, here we are, 2022, as we look at what season of life are each of these generations in. So obviously the builders, they're the older adults in our society today. And then you have the baby boomers, and there's a lot of them, 76 million born in 18 years. And they've revolutionized, the sexual revolution of the 60s. Right. Woodstock ain't happened with the builder generation, okay? That's the boomers as teenagers, Just telling you, that's how that goes. And you can study, from music and the different things that came about, and the 70s and all the things that were going on there. If you're a boomer and you were experiencing your late teenage years and early 20s in that time period, just be glad they have social media. You probably never gotten a job, So this is a lot of things that were going on, all right? So, boomers can look at young people today and go, I can't believe how they're acting. Really? Like, we've watched the documentaries.
We know what's they're coming out, man. They're coming out.
So, again, we could all look back in hindsight. And then the Gen Xers, I think the ages were mid-30s to late 49, So I'm a Gen Xer, and I like to say we're the forgotten generation, we're the ignored generation, we're the rope and tug of war between millennials and boomers. We just show up and go to work every day and just keep doing what we're supposed to do.
No chip on their shoulder about it.
We're not bitter, we're not cynical. We
just go to work.
Y'all keep trying to figure out who's in charge, and we'll get the work done. All right, so that's a Gen Xer. So we didn't wear bike helmets. The only people who wore helmets when we were growing up were people who played football. They were called football helmets.
You needed it.
And even then, not all the time.
I distinctly remember I was chasing. I don't know if it's called chasing if you're on your bike, but I was pursuing my brother who was being pushed by my sister in some type of Hot Wheels contraption while I'm chasing him on my bike. And they didn't quite take the corner the right way in the driveway. So we smashed his face into the bumper of our station wagon. He had to be rushed to the hospital.
Oh, no.
Gets home a month later. I hit him in the head with a baseball bat, just practicing my baseballs. This was a normal occurrence.
This is why helmets existed now.
I snapped my femur in half when I was a kid. It's my neighbor had to be airlifted for crashing his bike. This was just life.
How did you snap your lip?
It's a long story. We don't have time to get into it, right? So I'm just trying to
his brother got mad after he hit him with a baseball bat.
He got a baseball bat after him.
We were not coddled or protected.
Right.
At all. Right. And we were just fed a lot of sugary food and drank a lot of Coke.
Sounds like the 90s.
There were no, and just give them more Kool-Aid. They'll be fine. So the Gen Xers, and then we had to learn technology.
Right.
We didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
So, right when we start entering the workforce is when the technology starts happening and
the rules change.
The .com.
And we don't know what we're doing with it.
What is this?
That's
what do you mean?
That's why most Gen Xers aren't in charge of anything. It's like, y'all just go back to your cubicle and get some work done. And again, not cynical or anything like that. And then you have the millennials who celebrated, they all got trophies their entire life, participation trophies, replaced winning. Like when I grew up, if you didn't win, you didn't get a trophy. We changed all the rules on that, the baby on board generation. But what happened because of that, and it's fun to kind of make light of this, and I hope everybody listening can tell I'm trying to have some fun with this. The millennials have a positive outlook on life that the Gen Xers didn't have. They work together. Gen Xers, were notorious for like, don't give me a group project at school. Just let me do my own paper.
Yeah.
Not millennials. All of life's a group project.
That's right.
In fact, they don't even understand the term cheating. It's like, no, I wasn't cheating. We were working together. Like that's kind of, you talk to teachers during that. I was a student pastor. Like all these students are cheating. They don't think they're cheating. They just like to work together. And so, they just look at things differently. And now they're raising their kids and, they look at parenting different. And sometimes that creates a little bit of friction. Boomers who raise their kids one way are frustrated with millennial kids who are raising their kids another way. And they don't understand why they don't want them to eat, red food dye. And here we go. And everybody's off and fighting and arguing. So it's like every generation has different values. Yeah. That's all we're trying to say. And it's not a right or a wrong. And it's easy to get immersed in the way that you see things. And that's like you don't recognize the values you have because it's all that you know.
Right.
And a lot of times you see differing values as wrong. And all I'm saying is, hey, I could learn a lot from each generation.
Yeah.
I could learn a lot. I could have a perspective changed or shifted. And that's helpful,
Yeah.
It's helpful if we want to grow. It's certainly helpful in the family of God.
Yeah.
To learn and see the value of differences. And so all of that to say, lots of different perspectives, differing values, and we're at a pivotal crossroads because if we're not careful, that can create dissension.
Yeah.
That can create dissension in a church family and keep us from being able to do what we've been called to do, this mandate, which is passing on the good news of the gospel to the next generation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
So thank you for giving me a second there. Have some fun with that.
I love that. I mean, that's, I talking about working together and like learning from each generation. Like that was our life group. Like we had anywhere people from who were retired, 70s, 80s, all the way to like newlywed.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Like learning from each other and coming at it from that.
The 90s are an interesting decade to really kind of see this, and what I would say is glaringly like, oh my goodness. So early 90s, it's Pearl Jam, it's grunge, it's Nirvana.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody's got this angst. And by the late 90s, Hanson singing Bop.
Right.
All right. That is very different.
Hey.
I mean, listen, NSYNC doesn't make it in the early 90s.
No, absolutely not.
Is it
you say bye.
I want it that way. Or that's
yeah.
That doesn't come out in 91. That comes out in 98, 99. Totally different.
That's also technology, like using like synthetic instruments. They're like, this is easy. This is cheaper.
I heard Bop. I thought it was a joke. I was like, what is this? And like everybody's like, it's the greatest song ever. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? You know?
Do yourself a favor and listen to them as grown up now. They're great.
Hanson,
they're great.
Do they have first names? I don't even know their names.
I don't know their first names.
I just 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, Hanson 1, 2, and 3.
Although the first time I saw them, I was like, who are these chicks? I mean, I'm not even kidding. But Mbop was a bopper, man.
Yeah, how different is that than Nirvana? And Pearl Jam,
Kurt Cobain, all those guys. Yeah,
totally different.
Yeah,
and even like if you want to go to different genres with rap, I mean, the rap music in the early '90s, which is super controversial, and then the rap, music in the late '90s, it's even more poppy and stuff. And who was the guy with a Band-Aid under his eye?
Nelly?
Nelly's collaborating with Tim McGraw for Pete's sake.
That doesn't happen together, man. They're just working together.
It's like Aerosmith and Run DMC.
Yeah, I mean, there you go.
Come on, now we're talking.
Yeah,
that's there. Now that's what collaboration's supposed to look like.
See, that's a perfect example of pulling from the next.
We are losing our listeners.
Yeah,
let's get back to what are we talking about?
Just talking about the next generation.
Okay, So we're doing what I'm saying we shouldn't do. We're focusing on all these differences and we're ignoring them. So let's talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So well, here's my question. So we're talking about how important this is. Let me ask you this: we don't want to stay inward focused on our own generation. We don't want to focus on what divides us. We want to focus on what unites us, Jesus. So what are some practical ways that we can keep that outward focus in an effort to reach the next generation?
Get to know them. You get to know them, spend time with them. We have great serving opportunities to be around teenagers.
Yeah.
Our teenagers are phenomenal.
They're awesome.
Now, I'm really biased, but they are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you can serve in our student ministry. You say, I don't know if I could serve in the student ministry every single week. That's okay. We have annual trips that we take. You guys are going on a trip at the end of December, right?
Up to Pigeon Forge.
Yeah, so we do that. We'll go somewhere in the summer. We have retreats that we do.
Yeah.
Every time we do those things, we need people to prepare meals or help us transport. Yeah. There are a number of opportunities where you can have close proximity with our teenagers and get to know them better.
That's right.
We have a lot of opportunities in our schools. So the Pike Road schools here, we have opportunities to serve, from going to pop popcorn on Fridays, which Morgan and I have done, to volunteering when they host tournaments, like the robotics tournament that we were just at, to I got an email last week that said we need, and I loved this, responsible adults to be the lunchroom monitors while the teachers have a lunch by themselves. And I was like, well, delete,
take me out of that. I'm a responsible adult.
So Adam's in there yelling food fight.
I'm like, I think they're saying adults who will make them behave. So there's lots of opportunities for you to be up front and center. I mean, coaching and all the... And so I would just say, get out there, get in the game, find something. I mean... And I didn't even mention like band or music or theater. Like there's a theater production happening right now on Pike Road. We're going this Friday night, Elf, and these are kids and teenagers in our community. So there's so many different ways that you can get in close proximity because you're going to have to build relationships.
Yeah.
Right. That's the big thing. If you can build relationships with students, next generation, you're going to earn the opportunity for them to listen to you talk about Jesus. And I know this. I mean, all of the kids that I've coached, over the years, like I'm earning the opportunity to be a voice in their life.
Yeah.
And so, I have to earn that opportunity by letting them know I love them.
Yeah.
I just told my basketball team last week at the end of practice, I said, I need all of you to look at me. I love all of you. All of you have value because you were created in God's image. But when we're out here playing basketball, I'm going to coach you, okay? And so when I coach you, it's because I love you.
Right.
Okay, well, what am I? I'm building trust. So back in the day, like if you played athletics, if you played sports, the authority, the coach said jump, and you said how high.
Right.
Yeah. Well, coaching kids today, I can tell you, if you say jump, here's the question. Why would we do that? So, you have to, and I've heard Nick Saban talk about this, the biggest shift he's experienced in coaching over the last 25 years is he said, when I coach these young men today, I always have to start with why. He goes back, and I just would tell them, here's what we're going to do. Yeah. Now I explain to them why we're doing it. And they, so again, if you spend time, you'll pick up on these things and you'll see like, oh, it's just a difference. If I explain why, if I earn their trust, if I get to know them, if I let them know they love me, oh my goodness, these are great kids.
Yeah.
And you're super encouraged by them. But it just, you're going to have to put forth some effort, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I've learned, working with our students over the last 6 months or so, I remember, when you first were like, hey, man, I need you to kind of, step in there. My first thought was like, man, I am not cool anymore. Like, I don't know what the kids are doing. And, and I was praying one morning and God said, no, you may not be cool, but you can be authentic.
Yeah.
And the thing is, especially with this next generation, they smell fake before they smell anything.
Yeah.
And so, but when you go in there and you're authentic and you're real with them and what you're talking about, building this relationship. So like, you don't have to be the coolest person ever. You don't have to have some sort of theology degree to work with students or with kids. If you can go in there and be real and love on them, it's going to be great.
Let them tell you what's going on in their life.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
A lot of adults don't ask them. So tell me what's going on in your life. And when you do, they light up. They're like, and they'll tell you. And it's awesome to hear.
Yeah, just be able to listen. That's right.
Well, we're talking about the next generation. You said yesterday that you're really hopeful about the next generation, Gen Z. So why is that?
Oh, man. I guess we can do another podcast on that. So go ahead and start playing the outro music. We'll wrap it up. No, I think there's so many things to be hopeful for. So when we read God's word, Old Testament prophecies, New Testament prophecies, depending on your particular theological camp and how you want to interpret these things, it seems to be clear that God is going to pour out His Spirit in the end days. Now, what does that mean, and what do we mean by end days? Let's debate that another time. So, if we believe that God's going to pour out His Spirit in the end days, and I believe that, I think that the best days of the church are in front of us, not behind us.
Oh wow!
I don't think that's happened yet. I don't think that we've seen God pour out His Spirit, to quote, the musical Hamilton, one last time. I don't think we've seen that happen.
Right. Yeah.
I want it to happen in my lifetime. I want to see a great revival take place in our nation, like the first Great Awakening and the second Great Awakening. I want to see people cancel their lunch appointments to go to the closest church to spend their lunch hour fasting and praying. Our nation has gone through seasons like this before.
Yeah.
I want to see another Billy Graham crusade in Madison Square Garden for 57 straight nights. I want to see that in my lifetime. I think it can happen. The likelihood is it's probably going to be our kids' generation that happens in, as they're, because truthfully, the adults who are on the planet today have just screwed up so many things that my hope is in what's ahead. My hope is in this future generation. My hope is in, the generation of kids that are growing up right now. Racial unrest is still a very big problem in our nation, but it has gotten better. We have moved things in the right direction. There has been more compassion, empathy, listening, understanding, instead of digging heels in and saying, this is my perspective and I'm not going to change it.
Right.
Kids don't think that way today.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm encouraged when I see the friends that my kids make friends with.
Yeah.
I'm encouraged when I see the diversity in our student ministry, okay? So if you really couple those two things, I think God wants to pour out his Spirit. I think there's just generation that's growing up that have not been coddled. They've had to grow a backbone pretty early on in life. Yeah. They went through a global pandemic during the formative years of their life. They developed a little bit of perseverance along the way. They've already experienced the emotion of loss. What does that do? How do you get through it? And sometimes we focus on all the negatives of that, and there are some negatives of that. But any great story that you study, you're going to see the people in the story went through some experiences that helped shape them, and all of those experiences weren't necessarily good.
Yeah.
Where, again, to go back, I don't know if on the whole, if millennials got that in their growing up experience of life.
Yeah.
Did they have major setbacks that built this perseverance in them? Well, we can look at Generation Z and go, check. They've gone through that.
Yeah.
So now let's fast forward 10 years. Let's fast forward 20 years. When they're adults, if we can help set the trajectory early on, where is that trajectory going to take them in every walk of life, in every arena of life? And then the last thing I would throw into the mix with all of that is technology. We've said this before, whatever we ignore, the enemy will use.
Right.
So every church that's continuing to leverage technology and utilize technology and help them see how they can utilize and leverage technology for gospel purposes, for kingdom purposes, for the purposes of advancing the church. Well, why not be optimistic?
Yeah.
So our opportunity right now is to really set them up for all of that down the road, because everything I'm describing is great and wonderful. But I can tell you that simultaneously, the world will be getting darker. So what's going to happen is as their lights shine brighter, the world will continue to get darker. The world is not going to get better.
Right.
The world is going to continue to be less Christ-like. God can pour out his Spirit. There can be this great revival in the midst of immense darkness, immense oppression, maybe limited freedoms that we don't have to see today. Maybe they have to see that in their lifetime when it comes to expressing what we believe with our faith. So there's just a lot of things that can come together. And I think that for a moment, if we can just try to look ahead instead of looking back, how can we set them up now so that they are ready to lead the church moving forward down the road? And quite frankly, that's what really drives me. That's just what drives me. So, if there's days I'm discouraged, and if there's days I'm like, oh man, I'm exhausted. What keeps me motivated is that. What keeps me motivated is, man, if we can, for such a time as this, set them up for what I believe all of human history is moving towards, which is the return of Jesus Christ.
Right.
And if that's our role to play in the story, let's go. Now, if it happens in our lifetime, awesome.
Right.
That's even better.
Yeah.
But, I think when our kids are adults, I just think there's going to be a lot of things that we read about in God's Word that they're going to be literally walking through and living that out. That's just what I believe. I can't chapter and verse that to you.
Yeah.
I just think that's where things are heading.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's good.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and, talk about a few things we have coming up here at Vaughn Forest. And although keeping in with the theme of Next Generation, the first one I want to talk about is we have a new student pastor starting this week who will be here Sunday, Matt Aldridge. So I want to talk about him just a little bit and how excited I am for this.
Matt
and Aldridge. Yeah.
So we'll affectionately call him Aldridge.
That's right.
Just to keep clarity.
Yeah.
So yes, Matt Aldridge and his wife Jessie.
Yep.
They will be here on Sunday.
That's correct.
And so make sure you're here so you can welcome them in person. We'll bring them up on stage to kind of know who they are, and then they'll be out in the lobby.
You can't miss him.
You can't miss this guy.
He's great. I mean, he loves Jesus.
Yeah.
He loves teenagers. He loves us. We already love him.
Yeah,
it's a really good fit. But moving's hard. It's a big transition for them. So be in prayer for them. And, it'll be great. They're going to be here right before the end of the year. They'll be here for Christmas Eve. They're going on the trip to Pigeon Forge.
That's right.
And, man, we'll hit the new year running. So we're glad that God was faithful to bring clarity to that process, and we're really excited to have him join the team.
Yeah, and like you said, we'll bring him out on stage, introduce him, then we'll have him out in the lobby where folks and so go introduce yourself to him. He's a great guy. I promise. You will be fast friends with Matt Aldridge and Jessie.
We'll bring him here
awesome,
on the podcast some in the new year too.
Yeah.
Give him a microphone and cut him loose. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah, that'll be a good time. That'll be a good time. And then also this Sunday afternoon, we have our Christmas remembrance service. So I want to talk about that a little bit, kind of the purpose behind that. And,
tell us the purpose behind that.
Yeah, so the whole thing is, I know that this time of year, there's a lot of folks that this is not a joyful time of year. Like I love Christmas, presents and lights and cookies and all that kind of stuff. But for a lot of folks, it's a tough time of year because they've recently lost a loved one, or it could have been many years since they lost a loved one. But that loss, it never goes away. It can transform. It never goes away. And so this is just kind of our, we just want to say like, hey, the church has not forgotten you. The Lord has not forgotten you. You're not alone. We're here for you. And so we'll be in there. We'll be singing a couple of Christmas hymns.
Is it in the East Auditorium?
In the East Auditorium. That's right. And there'll be kind of a brief kind of word of encouragement and time of prayer. And we'll be lighting candles for the loved one that we've lost and kind of in their memory. So hopefully that'll be a real good time for folks.
That's at
4 o'clock this Sunday, open for anyone who wants to come and join us for that. And then kind of wrapping up the year a little bit, I want to talk about the Christmas Eve service.
Absolutely.
Because I'm excited for that. So it will be on December 24th again this year. And that's a Saturday, and it's at 4 p.m. this year. So what can we kind of expect from that?
Yeah, we want everybody there. So we don't have nursery and preschool because we have a lot of amazing folks that would serve in the nursery and preschool and miss the Christmas Eve service. Right. So if you have a little one, listen, it's okay. Bring them. If you need to put them, if they wake up from their nap and they're still in their pajamas or whatever, that's fine. Right. If they make a lot of noise, that's okay. We actually have TV monitors all over this campus. And so if they really get the wiggles, like you can go out in the lobby and they can run. That lobby's big. They can run all they want. You can still. So it's super laid back. Now, if you let them run up and down the aisle, that's fine too. It doesn't bother me one bit. One of the benefits of having a pastor who's raising 3 boys is I'm good. Like they can be as loud as they can be.
Doesn't get distracted
loud
easily,
is all I know in our home.
That's
so it's not going to bother us. This is not super formal. That's not who we are. I can't sit up here and talk about the importance of the next generation and then have this keep your kid quiet mentality on Sunday. What are we talking about? Jesus said, bring the little kids unto me. All right. So bring them all in there. Let them be loud. Morgan and I are going to do a part in the service for them. We're going to have them come down front. We have a little gift that we're going to give them.
Okay.
That we I hope they think it's cool. It's not, it's not elaborate or anything like that. It's just a fun little thing.
It's a Nintendo Switch. No, I'm kidding.
And that's how the rumor began. We have that, and then Matt and his team. I've seen the list of songs they're going to sing. It's fantastic. Yeah. We're going to sing all the Christmas, not all the. We're going to sing a lot of Christmas songs that we know and love.
Get a beer for a while.
We're going to invest in the kids for a few minutes. I'm going to be sharing a really brief, almost kind of like devotion-like message, and we'll be out of there in an hour. It'll be great. So if you've got friends, neighbors, coworkers, family members, invite them. Bring them with you. It's going to be a really enjoyable experience. And then I love when we all light the candles at the end. It just, I don't know, man. There's something about visually seeing that picture. Yeah, it's such a great reminder to me of what happens. I mean, for Pete's sake, the name of this podcast is The Other Six. And what really, I mentioned the next generation. That motivates me. Another thing that just motivates me are all of you who are listening and what God does through you when you're not here on our campus.
Yeah, that's right.
I believe that we've been called to be a light, and so when I see all of those candles lit at once, it reminds me of what's happening every week when we leave our campus. Like all of those lights disperse into our community.
Yeah.
And man, that's been God's plan from the beginning. When Jesus said, it's better for me to leave and send you the helper of the Holy Spirit, that's what he meant. He knew that his people, empowered by the Holy Spirit, could spread the gospel more quickly than just him teaching like he did for 3 years of public ministry.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a great visual reminder of that on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
It just doesn't get much better than that. So, obviously, we'll have it online.
Sure.
If you're traveling and you're out of town, I get it, but we hope you join us. But if you're in town, I know it's busy. I know you're trying to get that casserole ready for everybody's coming over to eat it, okay? But come on, slip out for an hour.
Right.
Get up here. I think that you'll leave encouraged.
And it is, because it's a Saturday, a little bit earlier this year, so that you've had plenty of time to get the casserole cooked. Yep. And everyone gets a candle, right? Like everyone that comes in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, unless you say, don't give my 3-year-old a candle, we'll honor your request.
Of course, yeah. But we have enough candles for everyone.
Oh, yeah. We got plenty of candles. Yes.
Well, that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. So, again, December 24th at 4 p.m., our Christmas Eve service, family-friendly by candlelight. So it should be a good time.
That's going to be fun. Yeah.
So lots of good stuff coming up, lots of good things to look forward to. And, of course, we'll be continuing our Christmas series, Hidden Christmas, this Sunday morning. So 9:30 and 11 a.m. Like you said, if you're traveling, can't be here, you can always join us online, vaughnforest.com, Facebook page, or YouTube channel. So we appreciate you joining us today for another episode of the Other Six Podcast. On behalf of Adam Bishop, Matt Collins, sound guy Jonathan, myself, we will catch you next time.